Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy.
Oh. It's not even that. And The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked.
What happens when Whoopi Goldberg opens her mouth and accidentally wanders straight into the razor-sharp sarcasm of Greg Gutfeld, with Tyrus grinning from the sidelines like a wolf waiting for the punchline? Chaos erupts. Glorious, meme-worthy chaos that the internet will feast on for days. One moment she's preaching to the nation like it's her personal stage. The next, she's mentally booking herself a long escape from the court of public opinion. Spoiler alert. It's not just her talking points that crumble under pressure, it's her entire presence. This isn't your average talk show slip-up. This is a full-blown comedic car crash that you simply cannot look away from.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg, a.k.a. Karen Johnson. Yeah, who knew Whoopi was a Karen? I thought that was only for white people, like Toyota Priuses and skiing. Roll it, Francis.
Good morning and welcome to The View. You all saw the news. Whoopi will be back here in 2 weeks. Okay?
It's so cute when one of their side gets punished. They sulk like they ran out of raw cookie dough in the green room.
Whoopi Goldberg, the self-proclaimed philosopher queen of daytime television, has once again managed to do what only she can: turn casual political chatter into a full-blown interpretive dance of confusion, self-importance, and contradictions that could give anyone a headache. This isn't just commentary. It's performance art for the perpetually baffled. And in a twist dripping with irony, she ended up getting verbally and intellectually dismantled. Not by people sitting across from her, but by two critics who weren't even in the same building.
Yeah, ABC suspended Whoopi for 2 weeks because she said the Holocaust had nothing to do with race. She said this on a show called The View, which makes everything about race. Except now.
The Holocaust isn't about race.
No.
No, it's not about race.
It's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah, that's heroically stupid. Even for The View.
That's right. Whoopi took a spectacular loss at the hands of Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus, without either of them ever stepping foot near her sacred table of daytime drama. If that's not the definition of decline, what is? Let's rewind for a second and picture a typical episode of The View, where facts are optional, accountability is extinct, and outrage is practically the air they breathe. Whoopi sat high on her throne, channeling the daytime oracle of grand delusion, draped in righteous fury, as if someone had just asked her to host a charity bake sale for basic civility.
So the problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
She launched into one of her trademark theatrical tirades, this time declaring that democracy itself was being held hostage by anyone daring to question her latest emotional monologue. In other words, just another Tuesday in Whoopi land. But then the internet struck back. Far away from The View's clapping seal crowd, audience, Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus dropped one of their signature late-night truth bombs. No glitter, no giggling panel, just pure sarcasm, hard facts, and that classic Gutfeld deadpan mockery that hits harder than Whoopi's morning coffee when someone dares to challenge her worldview.
Yesterday on The View, otherwise known as Hell's DMV, Whoopi Goldberg asked how much different are the values of the Trump administration from the Taliban.
We have a leader who has repeatedly demeaned women,
Right.
wants to defund organizations that benefit women, calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on religion. Are these values really much different than the Taliban's?
Wow. Talk about groundbreaking to actually hear a celebrity say something mean about the Taliban. How dare they compare them to Trump? The Taliban should sue. Guess they ran out of Hitler analogies. So as they bash the president, I'm reminded how entertainers rarely express any rage over any strand of misogynist Islamism. If they did, we might take their rage toward Trump seriously.
Greg, of course, didn't even bother saying Whoopi's name. He didn't have to. He simply highlighted the absurdity of celebrity commentators who manage to be wrong more consistently than a broken weather app. The type. The ones who demand everyone educate themselves right after they mispronounce the name of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Tyrus, looming like a WWE bouncer at a Mensa meeting, dropped a metaphor so devastating it reduced Whoopi's credibility the way Thanos reduced half the universe. And here's the kicker. None of this happened on The View, yet Whoopi reacted as if the criticism had been hand-delivered to her inbox by logic itself. She puffed. She summoned the ancient spirits of Hollywood indignation, staring into the camera with the determination of someone who just discovered Twitter last week and thought Gutfeld was a spice. This wasn't just a stumble. It was a full-blown explosion of ego and insecurity.
Check it out on The View, all right? Talking about Latinos. Watch this, Tyrus.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We
Misogyny
need to
and
take some
sexism.
lessons.
That's what that was.
Misogyny and sexism.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election.
Ah, yes, the infamous sigh, that ancient art of releasing a long theatrical exhale, as if the crushing weight of other people's opinions is simply too much for her saintly shoulders to bear. It's the universal signal for, I've lost this argument, but I'll pretend you're beneath me now. And, oh, the internet had an absolute field day with it. Twitter turned into an open mic roast. YouTube comment sections became group therapy for people scarred by daytime TV. And even Reddit, which usually unites only to obsess over AI or bizarre pasta recipes, found common ground in mocking her latest attempt at political wisdom. Clips went viral. Memes were born. And that image of Whoopi glaring into the camera while struggling to explain why opposing opinions are the root of all evil practically begged to be printed on a t-shirt. Somewhere, an Etsy shop is probably already cashing in. And let's not forget her greatest hits, defending a convicted director with semantics instead of morality, confusing political disagreement with actual violence, and twisting free speech into a game where only she gets to spin the wheel. That, in a nutshell, is pure Whoopi brand.
But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunday.
It's a brand built on inflated certainty, sprinkled with selective outrage, and topped with a generous dash of self-congratulation. Think of it as if a TED Talk and a Facebook rant had a baby, and that baby somehow won a daytime Emmy. Meanwhile, Greg and Tyrus didn't even break a sweat. They just existed, they breathed, and they made sense. And deep down, beneath the carefully polished layers of sanctimony, Whoopi knows her hot takes have aged like milk left out in the Arizona sun. But instead of rethinking her approach, she doubles down. Because on The View, being loud will always trump being right. And here's the delicious irony. Whoopi tries to present herself as the voice of the average American woman while sitting atop a multi-million-dollar perch, sipping decaf injustice, and sprinkling it with a garnish of victimhood. It's like watching a yacht club debate the minimum wage. And if you think this was a rare ego meltdown, think again. She's got an entire library of collapses, from misquoting basic economic facts to mocking moderates while flip-flopping harder than a fish on a hot sidewalk.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
At this point, the Whoopi meltdown has become an American tradition. It starts with that smug smirk, followed by a vaguely political monologue packed with buzzwords and dripping with emotion, then applause from the studio crowd who are just happy to be in an air-conditioned room. And finally, the collapse, when facts, or Greg and Tyrus, gently poke holes in her fantasy. But the real kicker came after Greg and Tyrus shared their take. Not on Whoopi herself, but on the broader culture of celebrity-driven misinformation. Whoopi took it like a personal insult to the Church of Viewdom, her energy screaming, "How dare they challenge me? Don't they know I was in Sister Act?" The performative victimhood was almost theatrical. She wasn't just wrong, she was wounded. As if satire and criticism were some form of emotional violence. That's the trick. If every rebuttal becomes a personal attack, you're no longer wrong. You're brave. But bravery isn't misleading millions while patting yourself on the back. Bravery is admitting when you're in over your head. And Whoopi, she's busy building a submarine in the kiddie pool.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked.
And Greg Gutfeld? He knows exactly how to play this game. He doesn't need to raise his voice. He drops punchlines like anvils, each one landing with precision. Tyrus jumps in with metaphors so sharp, they might as well come with a warning label, slicing through Hollywood hysteria like a chainsaw through tofu. Their secret weapon is restraint. They didn't storm onto The View. They didn't start a shouting match across studios. They simply pointed out that the Emperor had no clothes. And in true irony, the Emperor responded by hosting a segment about how offended she was at being seen without her royal wardrobe. This wasn't a debate. It was a drive-by dismantling. And the poetic twist? Whoopi collapsed under the sheer weight of her own self-importance. Greg and Tyrus weren't even aiming at her. They were calling out the absurdity she embodies. But like a moth to a flame, she jumped right in, practically begging for the spotlight, and melted down on live TV like a candle made of hypocrisy. Of course, her co-hosts circled the wagons, chanting the familiar affirmations. "You're so brave. Thank you for using your voice." And the classic, "We love you, Whoopi."
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
It felt less like a daytime talk show and more like a group therapy session for wounded egos. But the public wasn't buying it. Not social media, not everyday viewers, not even some longtime fans. Because after a while, the drama stops feeling authentic and starts looking like a tired routine. When every disagreement is spun as a personal attack and every critic is painted as evil, people begin to wonder if maybe the real problem is the show itself. And just when you think the spectacle couldn't get more absurd, we dive into the Hypocrisy files. Whoopi's greatest hits of contradiction, a hall of fame so baffling it deserves its own wing in the Museum of Cognitive Dissonance. Let's take a spin through her long and loud career of saying the exact opposite of what she said 5 minutes earlier, each time with full confidence and no memory of her past statements. First stop, one of her chart-topping moments, defending Mel Gibson. Yes, that Mel Gibson, the man infamous for his hate-filled rants against half the planet.
So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has?
Back then, Whoopi assured everyone that Mel couldn't possibly be racist. Because, according to her, he was always nice to her. Touching, right? Fast forward a few years and suddenly she's delivering monologues on white privilege as if she's the enlightened Dalai Lama of daytime TV. Apparently, systemic racism is a massive crisis, unless, of course, it's her Hollywood friends caught with their figurative hoods down. Imagine being so morally flexible you could limbo under a bar set by the International Criminal Court. But don't worry. She'll be the first to demand someone's cancellation the next time a college freshman posts something awkward from 2010. And when it comes to free speech, well, that's sacred. Unless she's the one in hot water for one of her tone-deaf soliloquies, then suddenly she's Rosa Parks with a makeup team. To her, cancel culture is a fascist nightmare, unless it's aimed at people she dislikes, in which case it's just Tuesday brunch content. And then came Greg Gutfeld's closing strike, dissecting her logic like a frog in a sarcasm-filled biology class before casually branding The View as a cult of grievance wrapped in a bathrobe of delusion. The internet outside Manhattan went wild. Whoopi's rebuttal? Nothing but the same worn-out line about right-wing hate, like a jukebox stuck on one sad tune. Tyrus then stepped up with the final blow. This wasn't a debate. It was a mercy killing of bad ideas. And Whoopi, she slumped back, blinking like someone who just lost a battle she didn't even know had begun. Will she recover? Will she become the queen of balanced debate? Not likely. She'll be back with another take so detached from reality it might need a passport. And when that happens, Greg and Tyrus will be right there, still relevant without even trying. Because the truth is, Whoopi Goldberg unraveling under pressure isn't breaking news. It's a weekly broadcast. And the fact that two guys with microphones and common sense can cause it to happen from hundreds of miles away? Now that's real power.